so much, Daryl, sir, for accepting our invite, and it's an honor for the New Delhi group to host you again. So, good morning, good afternoon, all, and thank you for joining once again for the Impact Salesforce Saturday session. And today we have Daryl Moon with us, and he's a Salesforce instructor, course designer, and a consultant. He's a 5x Salesforce certified and a speaker. You can visit his website, certifiedcrm.com, for more rich and awesome Salesforce content. So the topic for today's session is create a roll-up summary using flows. And this is a brief introduction about me. I am Harshit Sharma. I'm a 3x CRM certified Salesforce trainee at UST and a volunteer at the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. And today I'm hosting the session on behalf of the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. And you can connect with me on the social handles, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also recently I've started blogging about Salesforce on Hashnote, so you can do check it out and share your valuable feedbacks with me. And this is an introduction about the New Delhi group. So the first revival meetup was start in February 2016. These are the social media handles where you can connect with us, the hashtag which you can follow and share the awesomeness among the community members. So the Impact Salesforce Saturday actually was rebranded from the name Virtual Salesforce Saturdays, and we have a website where you can find all the past sessions as well as the list of coming sessions of the New Delhi group. And Talent Central is an initiative taken and by the New Delhi group. It is similar to the monster.com, or you can say Indeed, where students or the job seekers are matched with the companies who are hiring for the particular role. So Talent Central is specifically for Salesforce roles. So recently we have helped many of the trailblazers in the community to get the job opportunity, and I am also one of them. So thank you so much for this initiative to the group. And this is another initiative taken under by the New Delhi group. Let's implement. So here the trailblazers are mentored under the Salesforce practitioners in the community, and they are given an opportunity to work on live projects, and later with the help of the Talent Central group, they are helped to be placed. Journey to Salesforce is an initiative taken under by the Salesforce Developer Relation Team India. Here they help the people who are from non-Salesforce background or non-IT background and looking forward to switch to Salesforce by enriching their knowledge in Salesforce and later giving them the job opportunities. So thanks to the developer relation team for the awesome opportunity they are giving to the trailblazers. And these are the top contributors for the New Delhi group who help us in hosting the session, in spreading the awesomeness about the session and the knowledge in the community. Okay, so these are the social handles where you can connect with us, our YouTube channel where you can find all the session recordings, Twitter, LinkedIn where you can find the updates about the session. And thank you so much to our sponsors, Cloud1 and Grey Opus, for their immense support for organizing these sessions. And thank you everyone once again for joining, and thank you, Daryl Moon. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, my turn to share. Where am I? Oh, here we go. Okay. So Flow's a pretty flexible tool. Oh, just before I start, anybody who watched or was lucky enough to attend any of the sessions at Dreamforce this week would have seen some announcements about the retirement of Process Builder and Workflow. So let's just clarify what the situation is. Nilan, turn off that microphone, please. Come on, if you join the group, turn off your mic. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we keep going. Excuse me. So so they mentioned the retirement of Process Builder and Workflow rules. The reason being is that they've put all of this effort into Flow, and Flow now is comparable to Workflow rules, comparable to process builder. It can do everything that both of those can do. You can now send outbound messages if you want to. I've never heard of anybody using workflow rules to do that, but you can now do that in Flow. So Flow now has that capability. It makes no sense at all for Salesforce to waste all their resources having 3 products that will do basically the same thing. So all of the effort's been put into Flow. Now, from about September 23, so we're talking about 2 years away, they will turn off the capability of being able to create new process builders and new workflow rules. That doesn't mean that your existing ones will stop. They will continue to work, but you won't be able to create any new ones. Okay, so bottom line is you've got 2 years to migrate everything across to Flow. After that, anything that's still remaining will still work, but Salesforce is not putting any investment into Process Builder or workflow rules. So if you were about to build something tomorrow, if you're going to build that in Process Builder, you're building technical debt straight away from now. So it's time to start looking at Flow. So today we've got an example where we build a roll-up summary for the account object. It's a pretty simple one. This is what we want to achieve. That's about me. Okay, we'll skip past these slides because we've covered all of those already. So we want to count how many related contacts there are on an account record. Now, I'm going to ask some questions as we go through. And so if you've got an answer, just pop your answer in the chat. I've lost it somewhere. It must be here somewhere. I'm not sure where my chat box has gone. I've got 2 screens and I don't know where it's gone. Where are you? Where are you? Should be there, but it's not. There it is. Okay. First question is, why can't we use a roll-up summary, a standard Salesforce roll-up summary to count the number of contacts on an account related to an account? So post your answer in the chat box and we'll see if anybody knows why we can't just use standard roll-up summary. Awesome. Thank you, Neelam. There is no master detail relationship between the two. Okay, so to be able to use that, we need a master detail relationship between the two. So if you look at the contact record, the relationship back to an account is lookup, which means it's optional. You don't have to have a record there, or you don't have to have a record in that relationship. Okay, so whenever it's a lookup, you cannot use the standard Salesforce roll-up summary to count those records for you, those related records. There are other ways that you can do it. There's an application called Roll-Up Helper that's written by somebody from your country, from India. That gives you 3 free roll-ups that you can create with that. It's point and click tool, Roll-Up Helper. You'll find it on the App Exchange, quite nice. There's also another application called Declarative Lookup Roll-Up Summary, DLRS, or as some people call it, Dolores, I learned recently. Written by Andy Fawcett. You'll find that plenty of references to that on the web. That's another great one. Free one lets you create as many roll-up summaries as you like using lookups, because you haven't got a master detail relationship. And that's fine. If you need a heavy duty roll up, you're probably better off using one of those. But today we're just going to go through some of the functionality of Flow and how we could actually use it to build a roll up. So, just going back here, we will actually need 2 flows because the delete function, we can't include that into one flow. And if you think about the 4 different activities that we can have on a record, we can, And we know those by the acronym of CRUD, C-R-U-D. We can create records, we can read records, we can update records, and we can delete records. Now, we're not concerned with the read. Okay, there is nothing that's going to change the record if you're doing a read. So we don't need to do anything with our roll-up summary. But for the create and the update and the delete, we need to handle those three things. We can handle the create and the update all in one flow, but the delete, we can't. We need a separate flow to do that. So let's have a look at what our flows are going to look like. So the first one will be on the account record. Sorry, is actually going to be on the contact record, but we're calling it accounts, count the contacts. Okay, so that's our first one. This one's triggered on the add or update a contact. The second one that we'll do will be the deletion. So that will be triggered when we delete a record. Somebody's suggesting that my screen is frozen. Let me go to the next slide and see, can somebody just confirm that you can see this one that says, let's start building? It's good, thank you, Vinay. Okay. So that's what we're going to build, okay? Oh, if you want the instructions, they're here. Okay, so at my blog, I wrote this one a couple of months back and I thought, this will be perfect for today, because if you remember, I ran a session a couple of weeks back and we built a really complicated one, that credit card application. That was pretty complicated. We probably bit off a bit too much that time. This one's a bit simpler and we'll be able to get through it in the allotted time. Okay, so this is also should be in your notes. Look, I'll just post it here in case anybody missed it or wants the link. I'll just post the link in the chat if it lets me. There we go. Okay, so if you want to go and have a look at the details step by step, they'll be in there. But let's go and have a look at our, okay, we'll get rid of him. So let's go and look at our account record. Actually, just to confirm, let's first go to our contact and let's just confirm what we've just said. So we said that the relationship between the contact record and the account is only a lookup, and there it is there. Hence the reason why we can't use the standard Salesforce roll-up summary to count these contacts back up to our account record. So the first thing that we need to do is on our account object is create a field where we're going to put this count of records. And we just simply called it count of contacts. It's a number field, no decimal places, default value of 0. Okay, that's all it is, just a number field, and we put that on the page layout. Okay, so just create new field of type number, no decimal places, just use the whole field for the length, and away we go. Okay, so we've got our field. And remember, this one is on the account record because that's where we want our counter, because it's counting contacts. Okay, so let's have a look at our flow. So firstly, we'll start with, so I've already built these ones, so we'll just step through them and go through what's in there. Okay, so here's our first one, the add change. Now, sounds really simple when you first start thinking about what you have to do here, but the further I got into it, the more complicated I saw it. So let's start off. So when we create a new flow, we've got a choice of screen flows, record triggered flows, event triggered flows, and so forth. There's a few, and there's some more coming as well. But what we want to do here is we want this flow to trigger when a record changes. Okay. And the record that's going to change is going to be the contact, because we want to know when somebody's entering in a contact and they've changed that account field, or they've added something into that account field, because that tells us, hey, we need to go and update the count of contacts on that account record. Okay, so the object that we're watching is the contact record. So we're watching that, seeing when something changes. So, and it doesn't matter whether it's created or updated, we want to do this one in the flow. And this is the reason why we had to have the two flows. Remember I said we had two, we had one for creations and updates, and we had one for deletions. Basically because flow says when you're creating a trigger, you can pick any one you like, but only one. So there is no create, update, and delete option. Hence, we created two separate flows. So when a record is created or updated, so when a contact record's created new, we need to go and update that account. When it's updated, we need to go and check and see whether the account field has been changed, because we might need to go and add one to that account. Now, we've got two choices when we can actually run this flow. We can run it before save or after save. I'm watching the chat box now to see why we can't do it before the record is saved. Can someone give me an answer for that? There's a very good reason why we can't do it before save. Remember, we're watching contact records for changes, and we want to update account record because that's where our counter lives. Why can't we do that in a before saved flow? Nobody? Come on, somebody knows the answer to this one. No, we haven't got it yet. Got people thinking. Okay. All right, time's up. Okay, so the reason why, think about this. No, we haven't got an answer yet. Okay, think about it like this. When we do a before record triggered save, okay, what happens? Well, we kind of interrupt Salesforce and piggyback on that save function. So imagine the user's in there and they're creating a contact record and they filled out the account field and they've filled out all the other fields and they hit save at the bottom. Before that record is actually saved to the database, we want our flow to run. But the user has the expectation that, you know, Salesforce is really fast. As soon as I hit save, it's going to save that contact record immediately, just like that. So we can't have a flow that can potentially take a long time to go off and do something and interrupt that normal process. But more importantly, a record before save flow can only run on the current record. So if we were updating the contact, we could do that, but we're not. We're updating a related record. That's going to take some time for it to happen. Okay, so we can't simply interrupt that existing save process, because in a before record triggered flow, we don't even have to do a get records. We don't do a save records because Salesforce has already done that for us. All we've got to do is do our logic and then an assignment and a before save flow. That's all it has to do. Do some logic, do an assignment to the new field value, and that's it. Salesforce takes care of the rest of it because it's waiting for us, because we've interrupted it. It's waiting for us to do that save of that contact. Okay, so yeah, two reasons. One is the overhead of going off and updating something that could take a long period of time. And the second one is the rules basically with a before save triggered flow is you can only operate on the current record. And here, we're not doing that. We're doing it on the related record. Okay, so that's what's triggering it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have a look and see. Go away. Oh, I know what's happening. Maybe I need to make that a little bit smaller. That's painful. It's doing that. Okay. Now we can go bigger again. Right. Okay. So question that we're asking in this decision was that related record changed? Just reminding myself what we're doing here. Right. Okay. So we're having a look at, in fact, it's not the related record. Well, it kind of is. What we're saying here is the account ID in that contact that's just been updated or created, was it changed? Now, for a new record, yes, it was changed because before it was null, now it has a value. For an existing record, it may have been changed. It may not. Maybe we just went in and updated the contact's phone number. Okay, so we're not guaranteed 100% that we need to do anything yet. Of course, the no will ignore and continue on to the next step. So how do we know whether or not on a change that account has been changed? So there's an assignment element and we could look at, what are we doing here? We're setting the counter for prior. It's a few weeks since I did this one, so I just got to remind myself what we're doing. Oh, okay. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the prior record. So we have a collection of records. What are we doing? Let me just go back one step. Oh, I missed this one. That's why I'm confused. Okay. So we're going to do a get records. Okay. Right, got it. Okay, so we're going to do a get records for the contact and we're going to have a look at what it looked like before we changed, and we can do that with our prior record. So if I just take that out for a minute, you'll see where I find that from. Just remember that I've got to make sure it looks like that at the end. Okay, so our prior record lives down here. Oops, it's gone. Okay, let me scroll. Okay, because this is a record triggered flow, we've got these two values here. This is the current record that we're working on right now. This is the value of the record prior to the changes that we're making now. Okay, so if the record already exists, there'll be some values in here. And I think I'm a bit sleep deprived still from Dreamforce and I'm a bit forgetful. I'll forget what was there. Let's go back. Oh, yes, account ID. Okay, so what we're doing is we're having a look in there to see whether the account ID in the contact, so the one that we're working with at the moment, is the same as what it was before. Okay, so we want to know get records, contact, conditions are met, account ID equals that. Okay. Right, okay, so we're getting our contacts. We're going to store, okay, so we've got a collection. We're going to store in there the account ID and the ID of the contact. Okay, the next step is, yeah, oh, okay, we're trying to count how many that there were before. That's what we're doing, right? Okay, so we've got a variable called our contacts counter prior. So on our account record, how many contacts were there before? Okay, so we can get that from that collection that we just created. So, and we're going to put that into this variable here. Okay, so the contacts counter prior equals the count of records that we've put into there that we did on that get. Okay, so we did a get on the account from before, that old account, because they might have changed it when they're editing the contact. So we did a get to see how many contacts were there. So we actually got all of the contact records for the account number that we were using before. Okay, so now we've got that in there. So we've got a count of those. Told you it was simpler. It was trickier than it looked. Okay, so the next part is we're going to do an update. So regardless of whether or not they have changed the account in this contact, okay, so remember what they're doing is they're editing an existing contact. We don't know if they've changed that account field. Okay, if they have, then we need to update the old account with its counter. Are you lost yet? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Might be easier explanation if we look at some records. Okay, here we've got two accounts. We've got United Oil and Gas. They have 3 contacts. We've got Brewery Company. They have got 3. Let's look at one of these. So here's our account. We've got 3 related contacts down here. Okay, this is my dog, Ace. Let's say Ace moves from United Oil and Gas to that other one. What was it called? Brewery Company. Okay, so we'll go back to there. We'll go to our related contact and we're going to edit this contact. So this is the change that we're talking about. So our prior on the account is United Oil and Gas, right? A new one is going to be the Brewery Company. So if we change this and we say he's going to work for now the Brewery Company, and we save that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add one to Brewery Company and take one away from the previous one, from that prior account. So that's what we were doing in the flow, and that's where it messes with your head a bit and gets a bit tricky. Let's have a look at those counts now, and you will see that Brewery Company's got one more and United Oil and Gas has got one less. Okay, so we subtracted one from the prior and we've added one to the new one. Anybody thought roll-up helper was simple? Okay, so that's exactly what we've done there. So we've gone back and we've recounted the prior and we've updated the record. That's what we're doing here. We're updating the value of the prior, okay, with the count of contacts. Okay, so remember in the assignment, the previous element, we updated this by counting up how many records were in that collection. Now we're going to put them into our new account field. Okay, so that's our prior one taken care of. Now, so when the related record, so when that account field on the contact is changed, we go down here and the first thing we do is we subtract one from the prior. Okay, so we've done that now. Now what we're going to do is count how many contacts there are on the current account. Okay, so we've done the prior on the change. If there wasn't a change, we still need to count them, okay, because we haven't got a counter on the existing account yet of how many contacts there are. If we changed it from one to the other, then we need to update the old one, the prior one, which we've now done, okay? So the prior one's now taken care of. Now we're looking at the second part of it. So all we're going to do, it actually gets pretty simple now, is let's go and get the contacts where the account ID equals the current account ID. Okay, for our record. So this is for the new ones. We don't need to sort them. We just get all records. We're going to put them into a collection, and where I use the prefix RC, that's a record collection. So it's a variable of type record that contains multiples. So I just prefix them with RC. I know is a record collection of contacts. The only thing I need in there is the ID of the contact and the account ID. So I've now got a collection of those. How many are in there is in our counter here. So here's another counter, but this one's not prior. This is the current account. Okay, so into there, we put the count of how many records that are in there. How many contact records are against this account? Okay, so equals count does that for us. We don't have to loop through one by one and count them. We can just go equals count. So we don't have to do a add one, loop, loop, loop until we get to the end. No, we can just simply do an equals count, and it will query this collection, see how many records there are, and put that in our number in here. Okay, so we're nearly there. The last thing we have to do for our current account is simply update the number of contacts that we've got. So we're going to specify account object using the ID that comes from our contact record. That's the one, that's the account, and the field is our count of contacts. Using our counter, we shove that into there and we're in business. Okay, so there's our first flow. A little bit trickier than what it originally sounded. Most people probably would have thought, I just need to do this bit. I just need to look at my account, go have a look, see how many contacts there are, push that number back to the account record. As you can see, not quite, because you might be taking them away from one account and putting them onto another. If you do that, you've got to subtract one on the left, add one on the right. And that's what we've done here with our prior account. Okay, so that's the take one away from the account that they used to be connected to and add one to the account that they are connected to now. Let's just go back and have another look and see that in action again. So United Oil and Gas, let's just add one contact just to see how that works. Who are we going to pick? I'll just pick somebody who I can see here. Is it Mr. Neelam? I hope. Apologies if it's not Mr. Neelam, if it's Ms. Neelam. Okay, so they're going to join United Gas. Remember there was two contacts here before on the count? There's a funny one, kind of much worse than Sandra. I don't know what I was doing there. Let's call them the sales contracts manager. I don't think for a contact we need too much else. No, that's enough. Okay. What have we got now? We've now got 3 contacts. So that worked. Okay, so we went from 2 to 3. Okay, so remember those numbers. 3 for United Oil and Gas. Okay, so we've covered off if we add a new one or we change one. Okay, and you've seen both of those where when we changed it, we subtracted one from United Oil and Gas account, we added one to the brewery account. Now you can't do a delete in Process Builder. You can only do that in Apex or in Flow. So that's one thing that Flow can do that the others can't do. And in fact, our delete's pretty simple. This time we can do yes, we can run the flow before the record is deleted. Okay, so our trigger is going to run when we delete a record. So when we delete what type of record? A contact record. So this time we can actually run it before. Okay, so that's when it's going to happen. So when a contact record is deleted, this little flow is going to run. And this is the simple one that it looked like we needed on the previous one, but maybe you forgot that we had to subtract one from one and add one to the other. Okay, so on the deletion, it is as simple as that. All we simply need to do is so we're getting records of type from the contact object, where the account ID equals the ID of the current contact that we're looking at, the account ID field. Okay, and we're going to get all those records and we'll put them into our collection. We've used the same name because it's a record collection of contacts. We're going to grab the ID automatically, and we'll also grab the account ID. Oh, good question there. It just popped up. Is this covered if we recover deleted record? I don't know the answer to that, but let's try it. Let's do this bit first. Yeah, I think you might be right in there, Len. It might not. But we'll see. So in our record collection of contacts, we've got a count of related records. We're going to set an assignment for that. So we're going to say, okay, the contacts counter equals the count, how many contacts we got back. And because we're deleting one, we're going to subtract one from that because we haven't actually deleted it yet. Remember, this is before deletion. So if there are 5 contacts at the moment, when we go and do that get records, it's going to come back with 5. But we know that we're deleting one of them. So we need to subtract one, so it goes back to 4. And then we simply update our account with the new count of contacts. Okay. So the object that we're updating is the account, and we identify that with the account ID from that current record, which is our contact, and we're updating the count of contacts field on that account. Gets a bit tongue-tied. Okay, so they're all activated and working. Let's just see how the deletion works. And then the last thing we'll try is we'll try undeleting one. So let's start with the brewery company because they've got 5. Let's just verify that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Ace has decided that he doesn't like working on the brewery company. In fact, Ace has just come in and sat down on the floor beside me. He's a dog. So he's decided he doesn't want to work anymore. He's a pretty lazy dog too. So we're going to delete his record. Remember, brewery company had 5 employees, 5 contacts. So we delete that one. It's gone. Let's have a look at the details. Gone. Okay, that worked. Now's the interesting bit. What's going to happen when we undelete the record? Any guesses? Good question, because I hadn't catered for that situation. Let's have a look and see what it does. So we need to go recycle bin. There he is, and we will restore him. Oh, somebody thinks it will be increased. I honestly don't know. No, it doesn't look like it has. Let's just refresh the page to make sure. Okay, so what's happened? So we in fact do have 5 contacts. That's a very good question, that one. And our count has not updated. Now, what if we created another account, a contact now? What would happen? Any clues? While you're thinking about that, I'll go and create another one. Now counts to 5, you think? Now it will increase, yeah, it will increase the count, but to what? To 5 or to 6? Some think 5, some think 6. How did we do our count before? Didn't we just go off and count all of the related contacts and use that number? Right? We didn't just add or subtract 1. We actually went back and counted all of the records. The only place we subtracted 1 is on the deletion, because we knew we were deleting 1. Yeah, there's a few 6s coming in now. Let's have a look and see what does happen. Bingo. Okay, so it picked it up eventually. But good question there. Now, let's just go back to our flow, because I can recall that. Are we on the right one? The delete, yes. Okay. There was a question back here. Yeah. So it does warn you of that. If a deleted record is later recovered, the Flow's database changes and actions aren't rolled back. Also, record recovery can't trigger Flow to run. If you require automation for when records are recovered from the recycle bin, consider using Apex after undelete trigger. Okay, so there's a limitation. However, there's another way that you could do it. If it's not super important that count is 100% accurate, let's say, for example, that not very often do you restore a record from the recycle bin. If the counter was out for a short period of time, it didn't matter too much. What you could do is you could rerun like a batch job overnight, and you could go and update those counters. Okay, so that would solve it. But a very good question, and compliments to who asked that question. Sarab. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. That was a great question. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so with well, this one's a simple flow. The other one, not quite so simple, because it took into account, we had to go back and look at the prior record and update that, because the contact may have left one account and moved across to the other. So that was the tricky bit that we had to take count of. So we thought we had everything covered. What we hadn't got covered was oops, what if it's a restored record from the recycle bin? Good one. Any more questions before we wrap up? We're actually going to finish on time today, or even a little bit early. Any other questions? While you're thinking of your questions, I'll just go back over what I mentioned earlier. So the announcement at Dreamforce was that Flow is their preferred #1 automation tool. So any automations in future will prefer to use Flow, and the process builder and workflow rules. You won't be able to create new sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background. You won't be able to create any new process builders or workflows after I think it's what are we coming up to? Winter 23. So it's around September 23. So we've got another 2 years. Maybe it's winter. Yeah, I forget now. One new message. What additional measures can be captured other than count? Oh, anything. Yeah, absolutely. You could do sum and average. Like you can do whatever maths that you wanted to do. So you could count all of the, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of what values that we would have on a contact that we would want to roll back to an account. Obviously, if it was an opportunity to an account, then we could roll up the amount and things like that, but we already have a master detail relationship there. Yeah, so I think you probably could do those, sum and the average. Can Flow handle the large data set which we'll be uploading from Data Loader or any ETL tool? Yes, better than Process Builder. So typically what you've done if you were doing a large data upload using Data Loader or some other ETL tool, Data Loader IO or something else, is you often used to have to turn off process builders, or you had to turn down the batch size from the default 200 records. Maybe you had to turn it down to 20 or 50 records at a time. Yeah, it really is one of these it depends questions. However, the runtime engine used by Flow is different to the runtime engine used by Process Builder. Okay, it is way more efficient. And in fact, a before save record triggered flow, that's a mouthful, which is basically what we would use to replace a simple workflow. Okay, so we had a simple workflow. When something happens, update this value on the same record, right? For a very simple one like that, the performance of Flow is almost exactly the same as both workflow and triggers, Apex triggers. Because the old workflows, even though they're being retired, were very efficient, but they could only do very simple things. Update on the current record only. No user input, no delete capability, so no screen flow type stuff like that. Send an outbound message, yeah. Send an email, yeah. Update one field or update some fields on the existing record, but that's all they could do. So Flow can handle that a lot better. However, there is something that you can do, and I've had to use this tool once. I've talked before, I think last time we were here, about Unofficial Flow, unofficialsf.com. There it is, the transactor. So there is a, here we go, create, delete, or update tens of thousands of records. So there is a element, an action, I beg your pardon, that you can put in your flow, which is Apex, and it allows you to create lots and lots of records, for example, up to 10,000 records. Now, I used this one recently when I had an opportunity. What was it doing now? It had 500 items, 500 of one type of product, and I had a couple of hundred of another type of product. And from that, I had to create asset records. That's right. So I ended up, it was just from the one transaction, it was going to create 500, 750 asset records. And it kept failing when I hit about 200 or 300 records. And I managed to use this transactor action to be able to easily create the records. So it batches them. So you can set your batch size. So you can set it to 200, or you can trim it down if you want to as well. And basically you use some inputs. So a record collection of maybe of the records that you want to update, set your batch size, and output as well. Oh, here's your output down here. Yeah. And it will create Apex batch jobs in the background, right? So they might take, 10, 15 seconds to do them. But in the example where I was creating 700 assets from one opportunity, the fact that it took maybe 15, 20 seconds didn't matter, as long as the assets were created sometime today, in fact, was fine. So that's a great way of being able to handle lots and lots of records. So up to 2,000 per batch, but you can easily do, what are they talking here, 10,000 records or more in a single flow. Yeah. Which is exactly what I had. The same flow failed at about 300. 300 seems to be about that magic record number. Good question. In terms of order of execution flows when it occurs. Now, Si, what are you asking there? Where does it fit in the order of executions? I think in the same place where flow, where process builder. So I think they just, in the order of execution, I think they're just called processes. They don't actually say process builder or flow, but in that same spot, okay? 426, I think we'll hand back to our group leader. Hush, are you there? Because he's got some questions for you. And thank you very much for your attention today. Are you there, Hush? Are you still awake? Can you hear me? Hello? Here he comes. There's a blog for you.
Daryl, I am the another Harsh, not the Harshit, who is the host.
Hey, hi, Daryl. Hi.
I'll hand over the screen back to you, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry, actually, there was some network issue on my end. I was not able to unmute myself.
No problem. I think you've got a quiz that you have to run. Now, I've come up with some questions. I had to look at them before because I couldn't remember what I put. Yes, that's right. I think this is what everybody comes for, isn't it? The chance to win some swag or some free stuff.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. Just a minute.
So the questions will be around, well, we'll test and see whether or not you've been paying attention. So we're going to ask some things like, what sort of flows were we using? When were they triggered?
Please allow me a minute, Daryl. I'm just checking it. In the meantime, yeah, if someone has any questions, please feel free to ping it in the
No problem.
chat. Yeah.
So I do have so I run a website called Certified CRM. Started this about 6 years ago with the administrator course that you can still do there and it's still free. It's getting a little bit old and there's all this new stuff coming up and I haven't had a chance to update that one yet, but I have created a brand new flow course, normally US $20, but it's on sale until the end of September, only $10 US. Which if you do that course and suddenly you've got another skill under your belt, so you can now write some basic flows, that's a huge plus for your career. And the amount of interest in flows particularly just over the last few months, as people are starting to realize, hey, Salesforce is going to take this process builder away from us one day. We better start learning, and we better start learning soon. There's no rush, but if you're working for a very large organization and you've got a whole heap of process builders, you've got a bit of work to do. You've got to train your team up. You've got to go and do an inventory and, you know, like have a list of all those processes so you know what they are. You're going to have a good look at them, because there might be some there that you don't need anymore. A lot of them might already be disabled and you're not even using, and you could probably just delete them. Okay, so you've got time to do that. You know, don't leave it for a year and a half and then suddenly go, oh, gee, we better do something about flow, because you'll be leaving things a bit late then. So now's a good time to get in and start learning it. Create some flows in your sandbox. Jump on, you know, some of the Facebook pages where people are talking about flow, and there's plenty of them around, or LinkedIn or wherever. And when somebody says, oh, can you do this in a flow? And you're not sure, go try it. That's what I do. Somebody says, oh, can you do this? And I think, probably. Let me try it. And then post your results, you know, because you'll learn something as well. And then you're contributing back to the community. And that's what really helps. How's our Quizmaster going? You must still be looking for the questions.
Hi, Daryl. Yeah, sorry, actually, we don't have the Kahoot for today's session. My apologies, because we are short of the certification vouchers from the community.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can ask the questions though, can't I? Have we got time?
Sure. Yeah,
I'll be quick.
definitely.
Righto. Okay.
Thank you.
So, oh, sorry. I was, yeah, gotcha. I was chatting direct to Vinay, not to everyone. Oh, my apologies. Okay, let me just replay a couple of messages. So somebody asked me about blogs. Okay, so blog.certifycrm.com is my blog, where the only thing I'm really interested in is flow. So at the moment, that's my website, where we've got on special $10 flow course to end of September. Okay, so we don't have Kahoots, we don't have any vouchers. That's a pity, but we've got a special flow course. So you save $10 there, and that's lifetime access, right? I never cut people off. You use it as long as you like. You know, if you think, oh, I haven't got time to do it now, well, buy it now, save yourself $10, buy it now and do it in December if you want. Doesn't matter, it's not going to run out. Okay, I'll ask you to respond just to the chat. So the first question is, and I'll give you 4 choices. What type of flows were used in this project? The choices are record triggered flow, screen flow, schedule triggered flow, or platform events. Which one? Wow, you're fast. Yep, everybody got it. It's a record triggered flow. So it's triggered when a record changes or a record's deleted, right? There's no user interface on these, okay, for which we would use a screen flow. Next one, where can I go to learn more about flow? I'm not even going to give you choices there because I've already given you some. Where can you go to learn more about flow? There's a few different places. Certify CRM, you could go there. Where else can you go? Of course, you can go to Trailhead. Okay, we created 2 flows today. When was the first one triggered? What happened? Yes, YouTube's another option. Yep. So the first flow that we created today was triggered when what happened? When a record was created or updated. Yeah, so not just update, Nishant, but creation as well. Remember, there were two options on that radio button. Perfect. The first flow is run when. Now I'll give you the choices here. The first flow, so this was on the creation or update, was run before the record is saved, after the record is saved, the first one we're talking about, before the record's deleted or after the record's deleted. We're still talking about the first flow, which was our create. Right, it was the create update one, right? After record creation, right? Or after record is updated, because we were looking at contacts and saying, if this contact changes, we need to update a count. And remember, for before save, we can't go off to another record somewhere else and do that. We can only do the before save when it's on the current record, not on a related record, because of the performance overhead that it could have. Next one. A variable that contains one or more records is called what? What type of variable? Yeah, it's a collection, okay? So think about it as a box full of records, you know, old vinyl style records. You got a whole box full of these things, and on each one is a whole lot of information. There's songs and there's pictures and there's how long the song went for and who wrote it and so on. They're your records in your database, but this box contains a collection of those. And there are things that we can do with the whole collection of records. We can go to the box and say, how many records are in there? And the box will respond and go, oh, there's 27. We don't have to count them individually. And we use that quite a few times when we were checking to see, and we use that count records function within there. Okay. Which operator did we use to see if the record was changed? We've got a few different options here. So how do we determine if the record was changed? One option is null. Second option is was set. Third option is amended. Fourth option is changed. And everybody knows that it's is changed. Well done. So what is was set? Anybody know what that means? So there is a function there, is set. Oh, sorry, was set. S-E-T. Anybody know what that means? So we can look at a field and we can see, we can test it with was set. Okay, so it doesn't mean the same as is changed. Was set means that field was set during our flow. Yeah, a value assigned to that field. Not previous value, no. Was a value set on that field during the flow. Not quite prior. It means that current is different to prior because something was set in the flow, right? So imagine that the person's typing away and they've changed the field value in the flow. So it was set. So think was set equals was set in the flow. Okay, next one. Can't see it, it's not big enough. Which global variable contains the record that triggered the flow? Remember we looked at, hey, got it, I don't even have to explain it. Dollar record, yeah, dollar record. Remember, it's a global variable. And what's the other one? And what does it contain? Yay, prior, well done. Well done. Yeah, so prior contained our record prior, dollar record prior. So in some of my variable names, I used RC at the start. What did that RC mean? Why did I use that? Well, gee, you're fast. Record collection, exactly. I don't even know what I'm asking in this next question. Let me just read it again. Why was a record collection not used to update account? Oh, okay. Oh, that was, yeah, it kind of doesn't make much sense, that one. And it was big. Oh, yeah. So when we were doing the update the account, why didn't we use a record collection? Because we didn't have a collection of accounts to update. We only had one, right? So we went off and we counted up all the contacts to determine how many there were. But when we actually went to update, we were just updating one record. So that's why we didn't need. Awesome. Great responses, very fast and very accurate. Thank you very much. Okay, Hush, I think we're over to you, my friend. I think we're done. So we've got one more question. Be quick.
Sure.
Somebody's asking a question. All right, I'll be here for another couple of minutes. Ask away your question quickly in the chat.
In the meantime, maybe I can just add on an information like by tomorrow, there will be the recording of the session uploaded on the YouTube channel of the New Delhi group. So in case anyone of you like want to revisit the session, you can definitely do that. And also if someone has missed it and they want to revisit the session, please feel free to revisit the session, because flows is the future of the Salesforce as mentioned by Dell. So yeah, thank you. Over to you, Dell.
There's always somebody who asks the hard question, isn't there? So Bharat Kumar has got the question of the day. Didn't he ask a tough question before? Exactly right. So you can configure Salesforce in such a way that you have multiple, you have a contact that can be across multiple accounts. Our flow doesn't cater for that. Easy. How to run a scheduled flow for every 1 hour. We haven't got a spare hour, but there is scheduled triggered flows. Okay. So have a look at scheduled triggered flows. Remember the screen flows, there's record triggered flows, there's also scheduled flows as well. So you can schedule a flow to run at a particular time. That can be quite wasteful of resources. Okay, imagine computer's got so much resources. You're going to run this flow every hour that does something. Your staff only work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So this thing's going to run every hour all the way through the night. Probably nothing happens. But you got to start the flow, you got to read some records, you know, so you're consuming. It's like leaving the lights on in your bedroom when you go to sleep. You don't really need it. You could turn it off. You may have a good business reason why you do need to run a flow on the schedule, and I accept that. But if you can trigger it by something, even better, because then it only runs when it needs to. There may not be a suitable trigger that you can use. Need to send a reminder for an event before 1 hour, yeah. But, okay, however, if that's what you need to do, why not set that when you create the event? You don't need to check every hour to see whether there's any reminders needed. Okay, so if you're setting a calendar event or something like that, you may well be able to configure that when you actually create that. Okay, so you want to send a chatter or an email an hour before it. Yeah, you might have to schedule it then. through. The old workflow rules would have handled that. Not sure how. So workflow rules is quite clever in that you could put an action. It basically went into a queue and waited until that time come up. But if the conditions changed, then it would pull it out of there as well. I'm hoping that they're going to do something with Flow. Haven't seen it yet. Okay, I'm all out of time and energy, and I'm thirsty and I need a drink. I hope you've enjoyed today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So much, Daryl. Yeah, please continue.
I can't stay and answer questions all night, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned a little bit more about Flow. Those of you who are developers, open your eyes, guys, because Flow is taking the place of a lot of stuff that traditionally you've had to do with triggers. Okay. So you might not need to write so many triggers, but you're the smart guys. Go off and write the really hard code. Leave us the flows. We're just the admins. We're not as smart as some of you guys. So, you know, let's just share the goodness around. Okay, that's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. You've been a great group, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Daryl, once again for joining us and sharing the knowledge with the New Delhi group and the participants. It was pleasure hosting you. And once again, guys, like if you missed any part of the session, please feel free to visit the YouTube channel. The video will be live by tomorrow. And thank you so much for being an awesome participants. And thank you. Let's see all of you in the next session. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.